Hello, everybody. My name is Christopher Saunders, and this is the Connecticut Sports Talent Show. We talk all things talents in Connecticut. And on today's show, even though the season has ended for the Crosby Bulldogs, I do have their assistant coach on with me to be able to talk about the program, players, and just being able to help out the Waterbury kids just all around to try to show them that there's more than just obviously football. There's obviously a brighter, if you want to go to college, if you don't want to, just to make sure to keep their futures bright going forward and not stay stagnant. I have the assistant coach, Shawn Cox, on. Shawn, thanks so much for being able to come on. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Really
Now,
appreciate it.
always, always. Now, before we get into everything I just mentioned, I know, just to recap Crosby, I know you guys went 6-4. As far as double L is tough. I mean, you lose one or two games, you're kind of on the brink of just being out of the playoffs as is. But I know you were mentioning how you felt like it was a successful season. And, in talking with Coach Scott in his first year with Crosby, right before COVID, it was one win. Then the wins started to increase, and 6 wins for Crosby is something that has not been done in a quite a bit of time. So, what are your thoughts as far as this past season?
I think this season was a really big success. I think we did lose some close games that we know in our hearts we should have won, but it's football. Anybody can lose on any given night, any given day. 6-4 is amazing for Crosby, I'll say, and it's only up from here. For him to go 1-9, that 2019 season, and then 5-5 last year, and then 6-4, it shows us nothing but progress being built. So it's only up from here. I would love to say, and definitely, he does an amazing job. Coach Scott does an amazing job with the kids, and from instantly, I was like, yeah, this we have a lot of talent. I didn't know how much talent we had. So I seen them boys in their scrimmages, and I said, yes, this is a team that is going to be successful on every aspect of the game.
Now you would know, I think, best because obviously, day in and day out when you were in high school, and then obviously, right now being the coach at Crosby. I've always felt like Waterbury has so much talent, but being able to harness it, being able to mold it is the biggest thing because a lot of times there's a lot of different people telling these kids different things like, hey, you could go to the league, you could be Division 1, you could go do this, you should go prep. And it affects in so many ways, and especially at Crosby because it's a double L school. It's a big time as far as you're getting a lot of players. Just talk to me about how you were able to just keep these kids focused for so long and not get distracted by the outside noise.
Well, what we like to do is we tell them, let the outside noise be outside noise. You focus on your family, your brothers here, because at the end of the day, we're here with you regardless. So if we go 0-10, if we go 10-0, in that aspect, we basically just be here. We know you want to go to the next level. We know we got all these different ears, all these different people telling you you can go here, you can go here. Make sure you accomplish it here first, and let it just let everybody know who you are.
Mhm.
Because yeah, you can tell somebody, yeah, you're going D1, you're going D1, but that could be somebody who's just outside looking in, who doesn't know you as a person, you as an athlete, even you as a student, because the student athlete, not athlete student. So
Mhm.
you can't just tell a kid you're going to go D1, you're going to go when they may have D1 athlete talent. Do they have D1 athlete grades? And I think that's the biggest thing in Waterbury is it's not a lot of athletes who are academically eligible to even play when it comes to the next level because they're so focused on athlete, 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 athlete when it's student athlete.
Mhm. And, to go back to the grades thing really quick, I think it's huge to be able, like you said, I mean, I could speak for just knowing a couple athletes just a few years ago who could have played at a high level, but because they didn't do well in the classroom, they wouldn't be academically eligible to play at the Division 1 level or even Division 2 level. So because of that, they'd have to go JUCO or they have to do something community college to get their grades up. So to look at the Crosby aspect, how did you guys focus on the school? Because obviously, when they're in football season, you have to be very, almost like, in football where our tenor, okay, you're going to do this at this time, and so on. How were you able to do that with these kids?
What we were able to do was we were able to, when we see them, hey, give me your phone. What's your power school? We were able to just clock them every time we seen them. Every time we just was like, what's your grades? What is this like? Hey, is this great? What is this? 64? Get this up. What do you need help with? we definitely would even study hall before practice. Make sure these guys are getting after being eligible. It's not. I get everybody wants to play football. We love football. You eat, sleep, breathe it, but you had to be able to make sure you're a student first, and that's I keep emphasizing our student athlete because a lot of times, and players I played with weren't eligible even in high school because of their grades, and it's not a great feeling to have. So literally, we just make sure we're on top of the grades at all times.
Now, Coach Scott obviously is a very imposing figure. I've talked to him a couple times, and he's a nice guy. Really cool to be able to talk about the game with and just hear about. I mean, I didn't even realize as far as when he told me how much his sons weighed when they were born. I was like, holy cow, they were huge. He told me that before the Torrington game, and I mentioned that on the air. I thought that was really cool. Obviously, they're a lot bigger now, and they're also pretty yoked up, which that helps too. Um, how was it for him? Because I feel like the guys, it's one thing, no disrespect to assistant coaches, but kids view the head coach different. So I feel like if Scott said something, especially because he's very imposing and because his sons are on the team, I feel like whatever he said, it's like, hey, you need to get that 65 to a 70 or a 75, 80. I feel like the kids listened.
Yeah, they listen for the simple fact aspect because they know what he's talking about, and they know, hey, his sons are on the team. He's gonna be the most hardest on his sons. You got to know, even though he treats every kid like his own, which he really does, you got to get your grades up too. And he will let them know, hey, assistant coaches, if I'm not here, or even if I am here, assistant coaches got to just like me treat them with as much respect as I would do with them. So they really, all the kids are really understanding. They listen. They know that they have to get it done in the classroom just as much as they get it done on the field.
Mhm. And that's huge too, because again, if he's not there for whatever reason for the time being, you guys have to be able to lead the way until he gets back or until he comes to practice, whenever the case may be. Now, as the season progressed, was there ever a moment, and you don't have to, obviously don't give players names or whatever the grades, but was there ever a point during the season where maybe school was a little bit difficult for some of the players, and how were you able to help them get through that?
I'll say school is difficult for I won't say names, but almost every player. For simple fact of aspect is they were telling me that grading changed. It was a different grading scale they were using now, and I tell them, man, high school is high school. No matter how they put the grading system in, you have to get it done, no matter what. So we
Mhm.
sit down. I'll have in the position groups that we'll have. Me and another coach. Hey, what do you need help on? Is it science? Is it math? Is it English? Whatever you need, whatever it may be, I can help you. I go to school as well. So if I'm doing schoolwork right now, best believe you're going to do schoolwork with me. We're going to figure this out because there's no need for you to be ineligible, you not being able to play the sport that you want to play at a next level because of a simple, I don't want to do it because I don't know how to do
Have kids or did players pick your brain? Because again, I know a lot of kids think of, okay, you only went here, so whatever, I'm not going to bother with you. But I feel like, especially because of the respect that you guys have from the players and vice versa, I feel like there were a lot of kids who would come to you and be like, hey, how was playing at post, even though they weren't an official division school yet? Now they are. They had a tough season, 0-10, but they were in a lot of games. Did they ask you questions? Did they pick your brain? I know you and I were going back and forth on that yesterday.
Oh yeah, they definitely did pick my brain. They definitely, even all the players. As soon as I got there, they were asking me, and they seen who I was. They looked me up. They were like, "Yeah, they definitely picked my brain a lot." And I let them know college football is not easy. It's not easy at all. I remember I showed them our schedule what it was. I believe it was 6 a.m. lift we had. Then we had class, whatever. Then we had 2:30 meetings with position groups. Then it was 4 o'clock practice. Then it would be study hall at 7. That's your whole day is gone. There's no time for partying, no time for not doing anything that you shouldn't be doing. And I would tell kids all the time, college football is a job on top of having a job and being a student.
Mhm.
It's a lot to do. So if you don't think you're ready for that, then I tell them go a different route if you don't think you're ready for that. But I let them know ahead of time that this is a ongoing thing that you're gonna do for 4 years. It is not easy at all.
When you showed them your schedule, what was their reaction? Were they kind of taken back by that? Because it's a lot different than high school.
Oh, they definitely were. They were like, "Yeah, that's a lot. That's a lot." And I tell them, "Yeah, it's a lot. You see how big these college guys are?" And they were like, "Coach, you're small." I was like, "Yeah, I may be smaller, but I can lift with the best of guys. It's not when you're in there lifting and in there getting and you're in there doing it time and time, and you're in there actually listening to the schedule and following it. You notice changes in yourself." And I tell them all the time is you have to really. It's this big struggle. I say that it's a couple times I came late to early lift at 6 a.m. and Coach chose to make me do 50 up downs, but I knew it was my responsibility to get there on time. And I tell them that you got to be responsible. You have to have integrity and do it.
Was there a particular player or players that you felt like really, or was it just the team overall that you felt like really stepped up to the plate if they were struggling in the beginning of the school year with grades, and towards now the end or the end for the football season for Crosby, they really stepped up and their grades went up?
I said I don't want to say necessarily there was one player. I know there was. I'll say a couple
Okay.
JV players and a couple of well varsity players. There's their grades, and I would be on them all the time. Like it's great up, it's great up, it's great up. And as we see, we're in the fear of we don't want them to be ineligible. We don't want them to be ineligible. We come to find out, the grades are outstanding now, and I think it's them showing that somebody cares and that somebody actually wants them to do better. They were like, I can actually do this, and I have the confidence to. I'm gonna keep doing my work. I'm gonna do my work. I'm gonna do my work. On top of watching film, because I want to make sure they have film time too. So I would tell them, homework first, do film later. I'm not gonna yell at you for doing homework when you have zero film time. I understand.
Mhm. Now, looking at it from, because again, I've been broadcasting for a number of years now in the Waterbury area. Obviously, my travels, I hear a lot from different things. Crosby, more so Waterbury, has people think of Waterbury in a not so great light. People think of Crosby in a not so great light. And I feel like it's not all bad. Now, yeah, are there some bad stuff that's happened over the course of time, yada, yada, yada? Sure, it happens everywhere. Trust me, even in the best of schools. I'm not going to name them, but they happen. So, does the coaching staff especially, more so yourself, do you kind of take that as, what, I want to try to change that because there are good kids in the program. There are good kids in the school. I mean, there's a kid who plays on the basketball team, Robinson, Jason Robinson. He's one of the nicest kids I've ever met. And if you said that, oh, there's this great kid at Crosby from somebody who's from another town, they'd be like, no, there's no way because everybody in Crosby's a thug or a drug dealer. It's like, no, that's not the case. You got to know these kids more.
And I definitely think that's one thing that's a problem with Waterbury too, and even Crosby, because Crosby for so long, even when I was in high school, when I was playing for a career, that's all it was Crosby fights again, Crosby fights again. It was such a thing where you're like, we're never gonna do it again. But now Crosby in a different light is they're not that team. We have good kids who are on and off the field. They're amazing. And even in Waterbury, there's good kids on and off the field, and I think that narrative needs to get dropped and just let's look at them as student athletes. Stop looking at them as thugs, drug dealers. Stop looking at that. Look at them as student athletes because these kids are out here busting their behind to make sure they do it on and off the field. And I think they need they need to be appreciated for that, and they need to feel high about that because that's a good thing that they're doing. That a lot of other schools aren't doing in other areas, and for them to have that, I tell them use that as fuel to the fire. Add that to fuel to the fire because you need to use that. Definitely helps. It helps a lot on the football field. We let them know we're not going to go out there and fight them. No, we're gonna play within the rules of the game.
I think of what Waterbury has because, I've talked to so many, nice kids along the way. I mean, Lede from Kennedy, he's a nice kid for, quarterback. Wilby has Richards, the running back, and James, the quarterback. Very nice kids, very hardworking. The Scott brothers, and there's so many other, kids as far as from Crosby, I mean, just overall. When you see that, as a coach, because like you said, you played a career, you kind of know it better than most as far as you were in the trenches and also part of the town, part of the city. As you now age now and you now being an assistant coach, do you see do you see it changing? Do you see kind of the arrow going up rather than down as far as the perception maybe just within the city? Because I feel like it has to change within the city before it can change outside. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and I definitely think the arrow is going up because back when I was playing, we weren't doing jersey swaps. We weren't taking pictures after the game. It was always a good game, good game. Let's get out of there and let's go talk our junk. Now you see kids jersey swapping with everybody. They're taking pictures, they're laughing and giggles, even if there's a W or a loss from either team. And I think that's definitely hype. That's showing that we have class and that we can. There's an up. There's always going to be positive. I think that's definitely that. I was surprised seeing that a lot this year from when we played Wilby and we're sitting there and their jersey swapping with James and the jersey swapping with Aaron. It was an amazing sight to see, and I absolutely loved it because that shows that it's not Crosby, it's not a Wilby, it's not a Kennedy, it's not a Chris, none of that. It's not Holy Cross. It could be achieved, and I'm glad that it was achieved.
Was there a certain player that you guys played against that you just were like, yeah, this dude's different. Like he's just on a different level. And you feel like, especially because he's in, the Waterbury area, that this kid could really help brand the name. And when he's announced, if he plays whatever level, like prime example, career, Gopi, right? Gopi was a man child when he was like 15. Now he's doing great things at Sacred Heart. And I know he has a ring, maybe two. I know he definitely has one. But he's repping Waterbury well. Is there a kid that you feel like, or kids that could rep Waterbury very well, even if they don't play football at the next level, if they just succeed in life? What says you?
I'll give you five. I'll say James definitely. James, he's definitely a great running back. That when we played him, I said, man, he's big, and he can move. I was like, I'll say that. Aaron too. That's two. They're them two in the backfield is a scary sight for any team. That you've seen that the option, the double pass we see, and it's a lot that they did. And I was like, yo, it's amazing seeing that. I'll say Joshua Santabria. That is an amazing kid. He can fly around and make plays. He can definitely fly around and make plays on any aspect of the game. He does it on defense. He does it on offense. He does it on special teams. He definitely does it. I'll say Dasani. Um, that he's an amazing too, and he wears number 5 just like Gopi. So that he definitely does a lot, and it's gonna be. And I'm hoping these guys do play at the next level because it's gonna say a lot about Waterbury's talent. And the last one, I'm gonna give it. They're brothers, so give it. Michael and Mikhail Scott. I love them too. Absolutely do. They're great. They're great running backs, great linebacker. They're patient as well. They're team players. You'll never hear one of them yelling, screaming. None of it. They definitely hold themselves to a higher standards, and they hold their team to a higher standards. Like, so I definitely think those 5 kids will definitely, hopefully, they play at the next level and show Waterbury has talent.
I hope Mikhail plays linebacker at the next level because I feel like he'd be the guy that have like 150 tackles, but you would never know because it's just something that just happens. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I was surprised when I surprised too much, but 120, I was like, wow, that's a big jump from last year. You know, it was 10-9, whatever it was. I think it was 111 last year or 110. I'm not really sure. That's
Mhm.
a big. That's still to do that back to back. That's not something that's really easy to do, especially at a linebacker spot when we have good defensive linemen on it for us. So him doing that shows the level of athlete he is.
Sean, I appreciate you coming. A lot of fun to be able to talk about the city of Waterbury and the talent, and also trying to help them going forward. Before I let you go, do you have any final thoughts or anything as far as how you will continue, as far as with your program, to help with you and the rest of the staff to make sure? Because you were telling me the kids are already back in the weight room. They want to get back and get ready for the 2023 season. It's going to look a little bit different. But obviously the grades are huge. If you don't do well in the spring, you can't play in the fall. It's as simple as that. If you don't stay out of trouble, you may not even be on the program, especially Coach Scott's. Coach Scott doesn't want to deal with that stuff. So how are you and the staff going to continue on keeping this moving forward and not take stepwards back, but take steps forward?
And then we're gonna ride with the guys we have, and as we say, we like to ride with our 300. Some of the kids didn't know what the movie was. We showed them like 300. We're gonna ride with our 300. We're gonna be here. The guys who want to be here, guys who want to be student athletes, the guys who want to play football and do great things on and off the field. We're gonna ride with those 300, and we're gonna go beat the Goliaths, as Coach Gray, another assistant coach, would say. We'll be the Davids and we'll beat the Goliaths. So with that aspect, we're using those analogies to show them anything is possible. Nothing is impossible. If you put your mind to it, you want to get an A in that class, you'll get an A in that class. You want to get 120 tackles like Mikhail did, you'll do it. You can even achieve more. So I say using those analogies and letting them know anything's possible, we're in for a good season next year.
I got to ask real quick because Ollie Gray is probably not only is he a very spiritual man and a very God willing man, he's probably one of the nicest people probably in this country. And I mean, how was it coaching alongside him? Because everybody that I have asked, absolutely, and players too, they love him. They would fight, they would run through 8 walls for him.
Definitely, he's an amazing man, and I love that he's a spiritual guy too because I go to church as well, and I love that we pray. I love that he prays before every game, after every game, and I actually love that because it's an amazing thing to see. He cares about every kid, cares about all the coaches, and I'm glad we got to coach together. He actually was my coach for a time because originally I was supposed to go to Crosby, so even then having him for a month and a half as my coach, it was amazing. He's an amazing man to be around. Definitely appreciate it.
Did the kids respond to him well? I feel like they all loved him too. I feel like.
Definitely did. They love Coach Gray. They definitely do. All these kids love Coach Gray. Definitely.
That's awesome to hear. Shawn, I really appreciate you coming on as always. A pleasure. And hopefully you and the rest of the staff can continue doing what you guys are doing because it sounds like it's going to be a fantastic thing for the program.
Definitely is. Thank you. Thank you.
No problem. That'll wrap things up here in the Connecticut Sports Talent Show. So until next time, stay safe. And remember, CT stands for Connecticut Talent. I'm Majority Find Them All. Enjoy the rest of your day, everybody, and be well.